Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the Roundtable Live, run by me, Mathis, for today. Whatever today is, the 5th of February. How's it going, everybody? Hello. Welcome,
hey,
Malf. We got Malf.
Flawless intro.
It's pretty close.
Mathis.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I forgot to unmute Skype for a split second, so I was a little bit nervous. Yeah. So if there's any kinks in the work, you can just blame me. It's my fault, but we're working on it here. We're working on it. Oh, look at all the mouths in chat. Everybody's super pumped. That's exciting.
You know why they're pumped is because Mouth is with us.
I mean, It is exciting. He was the first one to answer the call, so he's more professional than the rest of us.
I'm an eager beaver. I don't like to be late for appointments, so.
Whatever. It doesn't make you more professional to be 45 minutes early.
That does make you way more professional.
If I had a meeting with a CEO and he showed up 45 minutes early, I'd be like, this guy doesn't have enough to do.
45 minutes early, a coffee, and some donuts for him, and you've got yourself the job, basically.
No, that's when you interview for an entry-level data entry position at a temp agency.
Yeah, well, whatever.
He's bringing donuts to that job.
I'm bringing donuts to every job. Anyway, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, including but not limited to The Witness, as Nick and Malf have played quite a bit of it. I believe Ryan has played a little bit as well. The new Tomb Raider is now out on PC. A couple of new game announcements, including Godus Wars and Xenonauts 2. We've got Insomniac's new game, but I think we're just going to start with the obvious XCOM 2. It's out officially today. I've already put a ton of time into it. I know Ryan has had the game for a while now. I don't know if the other two have played much of it, but I'm eager to get down and dirty with that game a little bit more. But Ryan, you've got the most experience, and you just beat XCOM 1. So comparing the two, I just classic Iron Man mode.
I just beat it on classic. Yeah, exactly. So I've been playing I have a lot of time in XCOM 2, and I don't know because they keep resetting the build. So I had a preview build that I probably put 6 or 8 hours into, and then I've got this review build which now is going to update the retail. Apparently I have 16 hours in it. So. But that is all over the first 3 months of the game, as is kind of common for me when I play XCOM. I like to get a perfect start so that I feel like I'm set off nicely. And this new campaign sort of feels like it, but I really don't know much more than anybody else. If you mainline the game from last night, you're probably a little bit further ahead of where I've ever been in XCOM 2, which is exciting.
Yeah, I've put only 2 hours into it today, and I'm playing on what I assume is classic. It's the third hardest difficulty.
Yeah.
What I didn't like is that you actually cannot enable Iron Man unless you skip the tutorial, and if you skip the tutorial, you miss out on a ton of story stuff.
You should do the tutorial the first.
Yeah, I agree. But I've realized maybe I'm just bad, but it feels harder than XCOM 1.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that. I think that, Jake Solomon, he was the lead designer or director or whatever on XCOM 2, said that even for people who had played classic Iron Man, probably they should play the normal difficulty for their first mode. And I agree with that. On the second or third mission, they start throwing enemies at you that take 2 hits to kill.
Yeah.
No matter what you do. And they do mind control. And they can panic your soldiers as well. So it seems a lot harder. And, concealment is good. That allows you to set an ambush. But I'm still kind of working my way around trying to figure out what's the ideal way to handle it.
Would you?
Yeah,
I was going to ask, in terms of the difficulty, though, I haven't played XCOM 2 yet, but is it kind of the bar is higher, or is there, cases of extreme, RNG just really screwing you over? Have you found anything like that yet? Or is it just more of a constant difficulty, I guess?
RNG will screw you over in XCOM, but it feels like the ceiling has gotten higher as well. Because the start of XCOM Enemy Within is really hard. The first 2 or 3 months are really, really difficult, especially when Thin Men starts showing up. But if you shoot an enemy and hit them, you kill them basically. Sectoids usually die in 1 hit, Thin Men usually die in 1 hit, even with basic weapons. Almost everything on classic difficulty, the equivalent of classic in XCOM 2, takes 2 hits, which is it's troublesome for sure. You really have to rely on better positioning and stuff like that. I think it's a little bit more ruthless. And the strategy layer, I have no idea what's going on. So I'm trying to make my way in the dark on it. I think if you definitely have not played much Enemy Within, there's no shame in starting on normal difficulty. For sure.
I mean, I've only played the tutorial mission and then the first mission that you go hunting a power converter or something, which I assume is going to power my base. And it labeled that mission as easy. So I was like, all right, this shouldn't be it's going to be your first mission. This is going to be no big deal. you see it, you have like 8 turns to get to it and hack it and kill all the enemies around, which you could take the whole however long you want. And you could see like an Advent officer and like 2 Advent soldiers. And I'm like, all right, no big deal. I'll set up an ambush. The Advent officer has like 8 health. He takes like 2 or 3 hits if you want to take him down. Took him out, no problem. I was like, all right, cool. We're going to go hack. We're going to get out. That was easy. I move forward to hack it, and all of a sudden I pop a pod that has an officer, a soldier, and the new sectopods, like the big tall sectopod dudes. And he immediately raises a zombie, and then on his next turn mind controls somebody, and I almost lost the whole mission because I did not expect mind control on a zombie mission 1 that was labeled easy after I already killed some people. And the way the level was laid out, I don't know if the first mission's randomized, but there's like fires in some inopportune areas that forced me to like go into like more open zones. And it almost kicked I almost lost somebody. Nick's the only soldier that came out of my character pool, and he killed everybody. He saved my whole squad. Yeah, sectoids. Sorry, not sectopods.
It's a big difference.
It is a huge difference.
I want to ask, if you're on the outside looking in right here and you don't really know what's going on with XCOM 2, why would you want XCOM 2? What's different? What's new? What's changed about it?
Especially considering, for me, the biggest reason I haven't gotten it is because it costs $80 Canadian.
Yeah.
Which is a hard pill to swallow when I've already spent, $80 a couple times on like Tomb Raider and a few other games. So.
Yeah. Well, if you like XCOM Enemy Within, then it's kind of like an automatic endorsement, I'd say. Apart from that, it's hard to say. Like maybe it's not an impulse purchase, but it is. It kind of strikes me as like a 3D Darkest Dungeon is an interesting way to put it. That is a reasonable facsimile. Like XCOM is basically, XCOM 2 at least, is basically like 2 or 3 games wrapped up in one. You have like the tactical, like Fire Emblem stuff layer, and then you have the base defense, where not base defense, but base building stuff. And then you have the strategy layer as well, which is like another layer on top of that. So like it's a very complicated game with a lot of systems that interlock, and they're all handled really well. Definitely do not get it if you absolutely hate games that are decided by RNG, because that is what XCOM is. There will be times when you play ideally and you put yourself in a terrible position that basically ruins your whole campaign, which is why I'm not playing on Iron Man. I'm playing on what the community is colloquially referred to as Bronze Man, where
that's what I'm doing too.
You should play on Green Man.
It might be a little cheaper, yeah, but on Bronze Man, which is just informal, you turn Iron Man off, but you only reload if it'll ruin your campaign.
Yeah, it's basically over.
So I think that seems fair to start with, but yeah, if you're the kind of person who would get 10 hours into something and then lose it and be like, shit, like this feels really frustrating, then that's probably not for you. But it's really rewarding. I mean, I have like 179 hours in XCOM Enemy Within, and probably like at least 20 or 30 in the iPad version as well. So I'd really recommend the series for sure.
Are the main bullet points mostly just the new procedural levels, or is there?
I mean, like
story that's really worth getting into?
So for me, the story is cool because it's like this whole idea of like now you're the attacker. Like so, the canon ending to XCOM 1 is the aliens won, they took over. The game takes place 20 years later, and now you're fighting this like and instigating this guerrilla warfare against basically the rulers of Earth at this point. If you're coming from XCOM 1, I guess the gameplay differences are. There's a lot of quality of life stuff that just was missing from XCOM 1 that is now part of XCOM 2. Graphically, it's not hugely different. Like, the style is still there, but though it's a sharper, cleaner looking game. The missions, they're constantly trying to, from what I've seen and what I've played, there's a lot more urgency to all your missions. There's almost always, there's almost always something you're trying to get to. And the addition, and a lot of the XCOM 1 was you're very much attacking in one direction, right? The enemies are there, you start here, you're pushing forward until you wipe out all the enemies. Now, like enemies can call for backup and they can land behind you and cause this chaos that really wasn't available or really didn't happen in XCOM 1. The classes are pretty notably different. There's a few similar things, like Sniper is basically the same. But, I mean, you're really, like, if you hated the reboot of XCOM in 2012, you're not gonna love XCOM 2. But if you loved it, like, I think you're gonna love this even more.
XCOM 2, it seems like it's if the easiest way to recommend it is if you have experience with Enemy Within, because I think people who like Enemy Within will be like, oh, now when you move to a spot, it tells you if you'll be able to have line of sight on an alien, or you know, like there's like triple the enemies, or you don't always start in the same continent. You know, you have to, like, that's procedural level, so you're not constantly doing like the same outdoor map or you know, convenience store and stuff like that. If you've never played Enemy Within, I guess it's kind of hard to explain why you should jump in there.
The other thing is like weapon customization is a big thing now too. Like you can make
there's loot. There you go.
There's loot in the game. You can build custom weapons. So like, say Nick, you're my grenadier now in like my game, and I get all this cool stuff to like increase your clip size and shot distance and all this other stuff and damage done. And I make this awesome gun that's perfect for grenadier, and you're my best one. I'm gonna give that to you, which gives you more like value to me as a player. So if you die, I mean, obviously it's gonna be more heartbreaking. But
so
there's
pick up the weapon and hand it to somebody else.
But it's going to be an investment, like, that's just... It gives you more of an emotional investment within your character.
Do I have to have certain skills to use certain weapons? So if I die, the weapon won't be compatible with someone else?
Yeah, like, can't you take the weapon and give it to somebody once Nick is
you
dead?
Can't give, like, every class has, like, a unique weapon.
Right. So you can't give, like, grenade launcher to a sniper.
Because the loot dies with the character, is what you're saying?
I don't know about that.
I actually have no idea. You're right.
What I would say about it is that it's a pretty minor thing. Like, if you're going to be more concerned about the loss of the mission and the loss of the soldier than a gun. It's not like losing like a legendary weapon in an RPG or something.
Okay.
It just adds another layer, and the loot is randomly dropped from enemies, and there's a lot of like, the loot only stays on the ground for like X number of turns. So do you risk it to go grab the loot, or do you hold back and just like pray that it works out in your favor? And the other aspect that I like, that I know we were just talking about off camera, was like there's this new character pool option. So when you boot up the game, right before you even start a new game, you can go into the character pool and you can just create custom characters. They can have like, you know, obvious custom facial features, patterns, names, all this other stuff. And one of the cool things I really like about it is you can dictate whether they're going to show up in your game as recruits, as VIPs, or as dark VIPs. You can also specify whether you want them to be like a special class. So if you complete this mission and you rescue this person, like this amazing sniper, it might be like Ryan, that I dictated that I want him to be a sniper in my game. But you can do like recruit, VIP, and dark VIP. So for Ryan, as an example, I had him so he could either show up as a recruit or a dark VIP in my game. Dark VIP is like an assassination mission. You're working with the aliens. There's a special mission to go kill Ryan. That is now like the game is pulled from the pool and put him in the game.
Bring it on.
Yeah. And then there's VIPs that you go rescue them, and they're like really good scientists or engineers that you go rescue them. Now they're part of your base and they're giving you extra bonuses, or they just show up as soldiers that you can just add into your army. And as I've said, I was saying on Twitter, I said off camera, like Ryan is someone who can show up as a recruit or a dark VIP, and I had Kate show up that she can only be a recruit. So on the off chance Ryan shows up as a dark VIP, I'll take Kate to go kill her husband, and it'll be this tragedy that people will love and cherish.
Yeah,
I do like that feature of the character pool too, because I think it'll be a lot more frustrating too with the whole, you know, once your character dies, it dies. It's not only like, have you built up this character, it's a character like you've basically given birth to it, right? It's like your little baby. So I feel like that's really going to bite a lot of people in the ass later, but that's kind of what keeps you coming back to certain games, like similar to Darkest Dungeon, right? You know, your character dies and you're like, oh, like this sucks so bad. Like I was like a level 5 or level 6 character, but then it just kind of like drives you to create a new game or just like to get another one going. It's an interesting dynamic for sure.
I know in XCOM 2 too, if you leave a soldier behind, there's a chance that there's a mission that comes up to rescue that soldier.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, so like if you like, I had to get out, I had to leave one of like Nick behind. Maybe like in 2 weeks there'll be a mission be like, we've located him, like you can go rescue him right now.
I'm not gonna be alive in 2 weeks.
So I like that. I think that stuff, like more investing of like the attachment to your soldiers and stuff, as well as some gameplay like tweaks and stuff have been great. Now I have heard though, and I will attest to that, the performance of the game is not exactly stable.
Really?
Like it feels not optimized, and there's like huge reports of the game crashing on medium to low range PCs constantly. Just doesn't feel like completely worked out. I haven't run into the only thing I've run into is like this frame rate will once in a while dip kind of out of nowhere, and then it'll be back.
I thought that was like because I had it on not my solid state drive, but maybe it's just a game issue.
It's a game. It's a widespread like game issue. Even on like, and I have a pretty big like a beast rig, as I'm sure most of us do. It's still kind of being it's being a little finicky from time to time.
It's the same engine, right?
No, it is. I'm trying to think because I've seen the splash screen when you boot it up so many times. It's on the RAD engine still, I think.
Okay.
But I don't think that it's just like the harness that is. Let me put it this way: it looks a lot better.
It does.
Than Enemy Within. Like Enemy Within only needed like a little bit of unpolish to make it run on the iPad. Like on the iPad, it looks almost the same as PC. XCOM 2 looks like it looks good. But I don't know anything about the optimization, but I have heard that the port is not necessarily not port, but the PC is not necessarily fantastic.
It's only PC, isn't it?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't do console release this time around, which is a little weird.
I think it's sensible. I imagine that the XCOM community on PC probably drove like 85 or 90% of the sales for it. It was out on 360, but I can't imagine playing XCOM on a controller.
My friend played through the whole game on the 360. I was like, more power to you, buddy. Like that's insane.
Like if you can, that's fine. But like I have enough trouble on the touchpad where I can like accidentally click the wrong button. Like I almost bought the 360 version back when I actually rendered videos because I was like I could render XCOM and play XCOM at the same time. Like I don't know if I'd necessarily.
It's an addiction, I guess.
It now. Yeah, you can get pretty obsessed with the game, but
well, that's fun though. That's what's so good about it.
As XCOM 2.
Yeah, it's really good. I would say check it out if you really liked the reboot in 2012. It's really, really good. But moving on from XCOM, the big thing that was announced... So I went to PAX South, and there was like a game announcement at PAX South, which is really weird. Insomniac's new game, Song of the Deep, was announced. But the big thing, outside of it being like a Metroidvania-style, like underwater exploration game, is that it's being published by GameStop.
Whoa!
Yeah. It's like a
and
first?
They announced it at PAX.
That's and they announced it at PAX. It was weird. It wasn't even on the show floor. So like you go into the convention center, and then there's like this little like hall or like room before the show floor before you have to walk through the archways, and that's where it was. So Song of the Deep was in that room, and then you go through the archways where they check your badge, and that was the show floor. So they were standing on the outside of it. I don't know much about it. I found it interesting. Like I'll pop up on the website again because they haven't really talked too much about it. But the fact that it's being published by GameStop is bizarre.
Well,
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Fox.
I was just gonna say the key feature of the game I've got up here.
You can pre-order it now.
Yeah,
of course you can.
So the key features explore a fantastic non-linear interactive underwater world from ruins to boneyards to gardens. Upgrade your submarine with new abilities to access new areas of the sea and combine your abilities in surprising ways like catching a torpedo with your claw arm, outmaneuver and battle.
I like that. That's the feature that's
I like how happy it made you when you said it.
You get to battle creatures along the way from lantern jellies and giant bosses.
Maya, relax.
And experience an unforgettable journey, a powerful tale of your daughter defying impossible odds to search for her father. So
this sounds to me like an underwater version of Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet, which I really
never
loved,
played.
Actually,
I never played it.
That game was one of my favorite Metroidvanias. I highly.
It even has like the same style of logo. I feel like
that's true.
It's like a Cthulhian monster. It's sort of like giant squid thing.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see it.
I'm watching the trailer right now. I don't know if the trailer's on the screen.
No, because I didn't have time to set up the screen.
Fair enough.
That'll be next time.
You can find the trailer yourself.
Here, I'll link it.
I like a lot of Insomniac stuff actually. Despite having not played much recently, at least like I didn't play Sunset Overdrive.
That was
that
was Xbox
I like Spyro.
Way back in the day. Infamous.
They're a reputable studio, is what you're trying to say. I think everybody seems to like them.
Insomniac makes Infamous.
Didn't they? Isn't that Insomniac, or am I just crazy?
I thought it was.
Wait.
No, it says in their footer. Look, so the
that's what I was looking
Spyro,
at.
Ratchet and Clank, Resistance.
No,
Fuse.
Infamous is Sucker Punch.
So they've done it's right in the bottom. Ratchet and Clank.
Why the heck are these guys? They're making an Xbox One exclusive and a PS4 exclusive. But I'm watching the trailer here, and I'm like, I kind of think it looks like if it didn't have the Insomniac label behind it, wouldn't you look at this and be like, this looks like kind of a generic indie game?
A little bit, yeah.
I'm getting
what
a
I've seen.
Worms vibe. From
Yeah, that
some
weird
background.
clay-ish looking
Yeah.
kind of graphic style. I'd be curious because so it's going to be PC, Xbox One, and PS4. I mean, really, the thing that I mean, the game doesn't look that remarkable right now, but honestly, like GameStop publishing it, I'm wondering if like because GameStop obviously has been struggling, not hugely, but like you know the digital era taking over. I wonder if this is going to be like their next step to trying to remain profitable is publishing games, maybe not super expensive games, but by developers to keep themselves. I feel like saying keeping themselves afloat is a bit, you know, dramatic, but
the real question is, I think, going to be whether it's like too late for them to get in the game. I mean, they are a big company, but it's pretty evident like brick and mortar stores are becoming less and less common.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what Amazon, for instance, has done to a lot of these smaller shops. It's like it's so easy. Yeah. People sometimes, you know, it's like, well, I like to look at the product at least. My parents, as an example, they'll go to a store just to be like, I like this product, and then they'll go home, go on Amazon, have it delivered and stuff like that.
There'll be tons of times where I'm in the store and I'll just whip out my phone and be like, is it on Amazon for cheaper? I could save like $10. All right, I'll just do that.
So for like games in particular, it's not like there's no real need to go and look at the case, right? Like that's not usually going to factor into you buying something. So I think if they want to, this is pretty much the evolution of them.
Dude,
you know.
GameStop had some really weird ideas about how they wanted to handle this transition to the digital era. They actually really wanted people for a while to come into the store to buy DLC and get receipts with codes printed out on them so they could interact with employees who would then try to upsell them on 100 other things and get their edge card. I'm not making this up. I can't imagine on any level where that makes sense other than if you're in weird corporate la-la land. Yeah. So I don't know how that maps to further down the road, but it seems like a bad omen if that's where you're starting to then go in that direction. I feel like
that's been a thing they've been wanting to do for years. I'm like selling like digital codes for just not even just DLC, but like Steam games and all this other stuff.
When it's like it's a manufacturer's suggested retail price that they don't go like lower than. You're like, why would I go to a brick and mortar store? If it was like a mom and pop store where it was like, I've been running this since like 1985, then you'd be like, okay, that's cool. There's like some culture there. But like, if I'm going to drive 15 minutes, like, you know, maybe pay for parking, go buy a game for the same price at GameStop that it would be on Amazon, I get it immediately, I guess, instead of waiting a day.
Yeah.
And I have to interact with somebody who's like, trying to upsell me on stuff and like wants to harvest my personal information. It sounds paranoid, but I mean that is part of it.
Yeah.
You know, do you have the GameStop rewards card, Ryan?
Yeah.
You know,
not just the game's fine.
How about a warranty for $3? We can warranty it for 1 year.
You know, I'm pretty careful with my games. That's okay. Like just the game, please, is all right.
Do you like Game Informer?
Just the game's like okay.
I used to actually try to leverage that whole thing against them in a way to make better relationships with people that came into the store because they knew they were there to expect that. So if you try to go out of your way to be like, look, man, I get that this is what goes on in these places. I'm just going to level with you. They respect you so much more and they'll come back for that reason.
Yeah.
So it's weird that you can use their own shit against them to get better customers.
The worst part, I remember going in, you know, after I didn't work there anymore and buying something and be like, I see, like, you're buying fucking, like, whatever game, first-person shooter, why? Let me open up this book of pre-orders. Let me show you all other first-person shooters coming out in the next year. Only $5 down. I'm like, yes, I want to pre-order every other first-person shooter game in existence. Thank you. It's the worst.
The worst thing that I really don't mind seeing a lot of like game stores close down is you see people, they'll buy a game used, right? Because hey, it's like it's a disc, whatever, as long as it works, it works. And then you'll see pictures on the internet, like some kid gets home and it's just like a piece of paper printed and glued onto like you know, a My Little Pony DVD or something like that. And they're just like, God damn it. It's like, I mean, that eats up a good chunk of your time. Like depending on where you live, some people have to drive a half hour into town to their local EB or whatever it may be, and it's just like
that's the benefit of switching to PC gaming. I think like if you have the computer to do it is midnight release stuff you don't have to worry about because everything's going to release on midnight on Steam. Like you don't have to worry about it's gonna sell out, gotta go to the midnight release, but you get it on Steam at midnight anyway. You don't have to leave your house. Who cares? You need to drive 20 minutes, park, wait in a line of people. I remember for GTA 4, I did the midnight release, and it was just like this huge line of people around the building. I was like, this is not fun.
Some
I'm
people
not
look at it
enjoying
like
this.
a party, though. Like, this is a social event. You can come and meet people that you never would have met. So there could be an upside to it if you spin it properly, but you've got to be the person in
You're
charge
asking
of
me
the
to
event to spin it.
socialize. I don't want
No,
to
I know, but some
socialize.
people want to do that.
That's true.
I think
don't.
there is like I sort of agree with what Nick's saying that if like a store has culture, and I know it sounds like a hipster way to put
No,
it.
I've been in that
but-
position. I've been in
yeah.
charge of doing that, and it's
Yeah.
actually a thing.
Like I know in the hometown where Fox and I grew up, they had like chain video stores back in the day. You know, Jumbo Video, Blockbuster, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then downtown there was also Classic Video, which was run by like a dude and his wife, and had like a huge selection of like old movies and independent movies and foreign movies, and then they organize like screenings and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, I could literally pirate it in 10 seconds, or I could pay $5, like support a local business, meet some people, and like that's cool. But like when you go to GameStop and there's just like a giant cutout of like, you know, Samus or something, and you're like, oh, video games, yeah, I like
We
'em.
love them.
Yeah, I like video games, you know, but like online, it just saves you that hassle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of good points I saw come up in the chat here, though, is, I mean, and one I'm thinking of too is, you know, we're with like Netflix and Steam, we're moving increasingly to everything, you know, through the internet, but there are certainly rural areas that internet speeds are crazy. Like my brother lives kind of out in the woods. He's got 1 megabyte or megabit per second download. So
Damn.
downloading something like you know, a AAA game like say Rise of the Tomb Raider, right? That literally takes him a couple days.
Yeah.
It could be
to
46
do.
gigs. There are games that big now.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I guess that's where they'll end up thriving. For me, like the brick and mortar stuff I go to now, like I'll avoid GameStop, but I'll go to like little like indie mom and pop owned game stores and like buy old retro games. Like that's where I'll go now, just for collection. But anytime I walk by a GameStop, I'm like, I can't. I don't want to deal with like being sold a million things.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so what are the repercussions then if they're publishing this game? Does it mean there's going to be exclusive content? Are they going to try and
There has to
favor?
be, right?
They're going to try and
Surely-
favor distribution through their own stores, you would think.
Well, you've seen that before, right? Like certain games are like, oh, you get this exclusive character at Target only,
absolutely.
at Walmart only. So
I've seen it a ton.
I'm sure they'll do that. But what else?
But will
I mean,
they,
like
in
they're gonna
this
make
type
they're
of
gonna
game?
make they're gonna make profit no matter where they sell it. Like
I'm-
they're gonna make money no matter what.
I mean, my guess for this is just a guess, but it seems to me like they're not gonna put this on a disc. This is not a $60 game. Like I don't mean that as an insult, but
Right.
No,
just
but this
looking at it,
doesn't
you're
look
like,
it.
they're not gonna sell this for $60. So
Oddly, something we talked about last podcast.
also true. It could be, you know, maybe it's something they have like a digital code for at their store, and then they can try to add it as like an upsale. They'll be like, you know, for $5 or $10, you can get this code if you buy another game with it, and then you can put it into Steam or something when you get home, or maybe they might have their own proprietary launcher. Actually, now that I think think it, like that might exist
Yeah,
already.
you're right. That's
think-
probably a thing.
You can download PC games directly off of GameStop's website. Actually, now that I think about it,
Not through a client, just onto your hard drive.
God, I can't remember if it's through.
I
a
remember
client.
Rob
I
was
think they have a
complaining about
client.
wanting Madden, and he could only buy it through GameStop somehow, and he needed some kind of distribution platform for it.
You might be right. Let me
Also,
see.
I'm just remembering now, like, this is really going to screw them hard if this really does go to digital also, because one of their main ways to upsell people is GPGs, the game guarantees, and if they can't sell guarantees on digital codes, that's like a whole revenue stream gone.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, I'm thinking of, and I mean, obviously for us, it's probably not an issue, but you know, credit cards and stuff. As soon as you get into buying games online, whether it's through Steam or something else, like a lot of kids just don't have credit cards. I remember when I first got Xbox Live, or my brother and I both, and we're like, "Hey, Dad, can we like give you $60?" And you like put your credit card in. He's like, no. It's like, it's not gonna like, it's gonna charge you the $60 and that's it. Like, here's the cash right now. But I mean, that's a reality for a lot of people too. If you can't go to a store and get it, or at least pay for a code
As
in
a
cash.
parent, wouldn't you not trust your kids even at all now with how shady most people are with credit card policies? They might get charged like 100 times. They don't know what's going to happen.
You look at all the free to play, but buy stuff on iOS like every couple months, like father got $10,000 bill from a kid playing Clash of Clans, and you're like, all right.
That kid now has 430,000 subscribers on YouTube, though.
Of course
He's
does.
making his way. It's an investment.
But he didn't pay back his dad though.
So, quick cursory search. So, Song of the Deep is going to be $15, $14.99.
Okay. Yeah.
But May 19th, 2014, GameStop dumped their PC game client. So you'd buy codes for Steam, Origin, and Uplay. So I would assume you're going to be able to buy a code for like Steam or something, unless they're rebooting it, which is
I mean,
possible.
if it's coming out on PS4 and
Xbox One.
Xbox One as well, I guess that they're content with putting it on somebody else's platform. Like non-cynically, what this is to me is maybe like a cool opportunity for a large studio to make something a little smaller and maybe try out an idea that is not as ambitious and time-consuming and money-consuming as something like Sunset Overdrive 2.
Right.
Yeah.
But kind of sort of cynically, I'm like, GameStop has done nothing to earn the goodwill of consumers, so why give them the benefit of the doubt? But I mean, I guess I do give Insomniac the benefit of the doubt at least.
It could just be a marketing thing. I mean, there is a lot of store space potentially for sale in GameStops, and that's pretty good for getting eyes. So maybe that's what they want.
I have to imagine, though, like, this is a little bit of a stereotype, but the people that still primarily shop at GameStop, I can't imagine them walking in and, seeing, like, a video of this and then being like, oh, I gotta have that.
No, you're probably right, but it could just be a bit of a misstep, too. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. So, well, I'm definitely a little curious how it's going to go out. As long as the game is good, I'll end up picking it up. So, but speaking of shady business practices, Peter Molyneux has been in the news again recently. First, his Twitter was hacked. Yeah. Somebody faked an announcement of him retiring, which everybody thought was serious, and I don't think we have reason not to. And then he was like, no, we're hacked, it's fine. And then like a couple days later, he's like, by the way, here's Godus Wars on Steam Early Access, which is
this time I wasn't hacked.
And it was live immediately on Steam Early Access. I think Malf here has a few words to say about it.
Have you played Godus Wars?
Not yet. I did. I think I was talking about it before. I got an email about it because I was a Godus backer back in the day. I was like, you know what?
Beginning of Godus.
You know what, Peter?
Bring us to the beginning of the Godus Promise.
The Godus Promise was basically, they had this general premise is like bringing back the God game, right? And Peter in the past has had some success and made some good games. Like I was a huge fan of Black and White. Like that's a really
Populous guy.
Yeah, Populous as well.
It's good for that stuff. And so when I saw what he was doing with Godus, I was like, well, okay, like I was not a fan of what you did with Fable and all your broken promises, but at least you're going back to something you kind of have a good history with that, But it pretty quickly became apparent through the devlog updates and all that stuff that they were really winging it with Godus, and they implemented some stuff. They got a lot of backlash. You could buy gems and stuff that you could use in game, like that really drove people crazy. And just like basically changing the premise every other month. So that left a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths, mine included. So, and then of course you had the controversy with the whole curiosity thing and like the winner not getting paid the money. I don't know if that got resolved. But apparently, Brian Henderson, the person who won, he is now featured in Godus Wars as one of the opposing deities. So congrats. Yeah.
The God of gods.
And, of course, this is bringing up questions of like, well, what's actually happening with Godus? Because this is all part of their Godus universe.
Wasn't this combat stuff supposed to be in the initial Godus game, like the actual Godus game?
Not that I know. I mean, I'd have to.
I swear that there was supposed to be an RTS element. Yeah.
Well, there's definitely combat in the original one. Like, I gotta look more closely as to what the difference of Godus Wars is supposed to be. Like, looking at the screenshot, it looks pretty much similar. Like, I don't know. And they just say here, they've responded to the whole "Have you abandoned Godus" thing, and all they say is not at all. The release of Wars proves that we are still dedicated to Godus, and and everyone who owns or has previously purchased Godus already has Godus Wars. Godus Wars is free for all previous Godus Kickstarter backers and owners. So like
Godus is actually, if you try to buy it on Steam, you can't buy Godus. You can only buy the pack that has Godus and Godus Wars, which is the price of Godus originally. So
I remember seeing that and being like, all right, well,
help.
It felt like they had like taken a piece of what was supposed to be in the initial game. It's like, it's a new game.
But what's the relevance of changing it like that? I mean, you've got a game that was never finished. Now you're taking something that people generally didn't like and starting another thing on the basis of that thing they didn't like from scratch, also in early access, when you got two things that aren't finished now.
The hunch was that it was an opportunity to sweep negative reviews under the rug for Godus.
The same name, though. Like, you rebrand when you do that.
Steger in chat says the most popular screenshot of Godus Wars is a Molyneux quote on the intro screen that says, "I always envisioned Godus as 2 games." Okay. Of course he did.
Like, it's just, I mean, to me, it's just digging their grave deeper and deeper. Yeah. Like, it's driving, you know, more people to look into this because they're like, well, what's the difference, right? And I don't think it's really going to change too much.
I remember I'll never forget when it was either right when the Kickstarter launched or right before. He was like talking to it was Adam Sessler interview, and he was like playing Godus with Peter Molyneux at some convention, and he was talking about like the most insane shit because it's supposed to be this huge world with multiple players, and he was talking about one thing. He's like, as a god, you can move like the pieces of the land around, right, and like form a world. And maybe you move this one piece of land into the ocean that causes this wave, and this wave ripples and becomes bigger and bigger. By the time it reaches another player, it's like a monsoon, and you destroy their land because you did this and you moved it over again. I'm like, you are so up your own ass, dude. You need to relax. And Malf was like, I'm supporting it.
You plant the acorn and then in 50 years, that's the Fox story.
I remember that for Fable. I was like so pumped, but at that point we didn't know. Like I was like, wow, the original Xbox is really powerful.
It's really powerful, and he's the only one that can unlock the true potential of the Xbox.
It's just, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, Peter, he's on my blacklist. He's number 1. He's the only one on my blacklist.
I'm still waiting for Milo to come out. I can't wait to talk to this little kid in my TV.
Was that was like
for the original Kinect?
That was the Kinect.
That was the Kinect selling point where you're like, this has nothing to do with the thing that was amazing about the Milo demo was like this kid is an AI that reacts to you
and has an actual conversation with you.
Yeah, and then you look at the Kinect and you're like, oh, like you can dance and it maps your movements. Like is the AI that was impressive. You built life. You built life to sell me a camera. Is this the world we live in now?
And then they're like, no, the game can't come out. It's not anywhere near.
That was just an MP4. And Peter and the MP4 collaborated with each other for a couple of days to get the timing right.
That's really all it probably was.
It was just recording
at the right time and choreographed the whole exchange.
God, I remember Milo. I was like, this is incredible. At that point, for some reason, I still trusted him after all the Fable mess ups.
It's a breakthrough in 3D rendering and choreography.
I remember showing that video to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, this is incredible. Like, I can't wait for the Kinect.
It's the future of gaming.
We keep doing that to ourselves. We freaking push back this invisible goalpost of technology saying, like, oh, there's all these amazing things coming down the line. And they're really, like, 20 years down the line. We just keep making up these ideas that they're right here.
Oh, my God. That's, and I remember, like, you could, like, draw a picture and, like, you could quickly scan it across the Kinect, and he'd be like, oh boy, look, this is what you drew.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was like,
or like a sailboat or something. Then he handed it to him, and then he had a sailboat.
Dear God, that was just nuts. But so
beautiful non-thing.
Gamers want to believe, man.
Yeah, we do. But virtual reality is finally a thing, at least. So we have that. Like, we live in a world where virtual reality actually came true. Not Milo, though. I'll never have that virtual son that I've always wanted.
You might in 20 years.
Maybe
10 at this point.
It's getting there. He'll be my virtual reality son. It'll be great. I'll dote him, and then when he gets old, I'll just delete him. Don't dote on him. Like, take care of him. Anyway, well, let's move on to a game that did live up to expectations, I think, which would be The Witness. People love The Witness.
I like to think of The Witness as kind of like a first-person Godus.
Yeah, just the same thing.
Personally.
So I haven't played any of The Witness at all. I know, Nick, have you beaten it?
I've finished it, I've beaten it, but I have not finished it is the best way to say that.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's a very careful game to talk about again because they didn't want to spoil anything. It's very much backloaded for content. The majority of the game is just staring at mazes, yes, but it isn't just staring at mazes. You will evolve and grow as a person. through your experiences, and I know this sounds really haughty and stupid, but it's a great game. I really love The Witness. It's one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. The whole experience just awed me most of the way through. I don't want to talk about the ending, but I've still got to unpack a few things. Didn't fully sink in yet. I look forward to finishing 100% on it.
I've watched a couple people, like, I've basically watched Dan's Gaming play it on Twitch for a bit. And, like, I've seen some parts where it's just, like, exposition is being, like, quotes are being thrown at you. And I don't understand. Like, I don't know what's going on in the game. The puzzles in the world look beautiful, but I just don't get it. But maybe I just need to play it.
You're not meant to get it, and they don't really tell you, like, for hours and hours.
Didn't Jonathan Blow say it's, like, the best story he's ever written?
Of the two?
I've never heard that.
Of, like, the 2 games he's made. Like, it's, like, I thought that's something that he said, that he's, like, it's the best story he's ever written. But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I definitely feel like, you know, I'm probably around 3 hours in or something like that, so not too deep. But I think it's the type of game that, you know, his intention is that you really experience it for yourself.
Yeah.
He's that kind of guy though, right? Like he's trying to go beyond mainstream formulaic stuff, and I think you can really see it in The Witness. It's just like it drops you right in there, and it's just like, all right, go. There's very little hand holding. I mean,
there's no hand holding.
Yeah, like you just like you see a beautiful world. You see some wires all about, and then a few computer monitors, or not monitors, but you know, little puzzle monitor screens. And I don't know, but that's part of what at least drew me in. You know, I was sitting there for an hour, and I just I had to do a hard stop of like, okay, don't do another puzzle, because like as soon as I did one, it's like, okay, now like let's go for another one. Let's go for another one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's probably not for everybody, because
I agree.
Some people definitely, you know, maybe more towards that instant gratification, whereas this game, you're not, like, you're gonna get a puzzle solved maybe in a few minutes, and then you're just like, okay, and nothing has really changed, at least in between, you know, 1 and 2 puzzles.
Yep.
But
There'll be sets of 20 puzzles sometimes where basically nothing at all does change. You just see the power pass from one monitor to the next. You solve that one, you solve another. And at first that doesn't seem like a big deal until you realize that's the tone they've set for the last 40 hours.
Yeah.
Like you'll go around a corner and then there's 10 more monitors. Let's do these for a while. Okay, that opens a door. Now let's go downstairs. There's 10 more monitors. And eventually you finish it. You get these little moments of like, okay, congratulations, you solved this area. Here's your beacon. And then you're done. You move on to a different area. Those are great. But it does wear you down a little bit after a while when all you do is solve the same kind of thing. But on the other side of it, it teaches you a language and it tutorializes very well. And it does actually sort of build you into this new form of speech. You learn how to guide a line through a series of blocks in a way that you never thought would be possible.
think about it this way. You guys have all seen Karate Kid?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ryan, what did you just say?
I've never seen the Karate Kid.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
That's
So
Wow.
you'll have to find a different movie.
No, I see where you're going.
No,
It's
this,
quiet contemplation.
it's very easy. I mean, you know, Mr. Miyagi is training him. So he says,
Wax on, wax off.
yeah, he's like, you know, goes to his home, and he's painting the fence and like sanding the deck and painting the house and all this stuff, and he's got these different movements. But you don't really realize that, you know, painting the fence, he's going up and down, right?
Yep.
Painting the house, he's going side to side, and then waxing the deck, he's, you know, going like this, right? And in the moment, of course, he's just like, what the hell? Like, I thought I'm training to be like a karate master, and here I'm like fixing up this old man's house. He's crazy. And then, you know, the big pivotal moment of like, show me paint the fence, and you know, all these, it comes together. So
Yep.
I mean, I haven't got there in The Witness yet, but to me, that's where it's taking me. I'm kind of excited.
That's dead on perfect. That's a great description of it.
There
At
we
the
go.
end, Mr. Miyagi is Jonathan Blow when he tells you to climb a mountain, and
So
you're going to
I've
have a
seen-
great time.
I've only played like the first, I don't want to say the first. I've played about 2 hours myself. I've gotten a beacon and like part of the way towards another beacon. So I'm still very much in the I'm just solving mazes situation, right? Mazes are on this screen and I'm figuring out the gimmick and solving them. I've seen late game content, really late game content that I won't spoil, that incorporates other media, might be the most
Yeah,
the
that's the thing.
subtlest. Yeah, and so
Sounds
it,
interesting.
And I will say that even though watching that, I was kind of like a little bit rolling my eyes, and I'm like, man, this is like super not for me. Like, I think if I put like 40 hours into it, and this is not to diminish the work, if I put like 40 hours into it, and then I was watching this video right now or this, you know, piece of media, I would be like, it's kind of up its own butt. But I respect it because it's such a singularly made game. Like, you can tell that this is like Jonathan Blow was like, I want to make this. And then it all feeds towards that. Whereas, you know, it contrasts with something like Tomb Raider, where you're like, Tomb Raider is a action-adventure game. It's mostly linear, a little open world. There's crafting elements. There's lootables. You know, there's a lot of story stuff. But then, you know, there's side quests that are relatively inconsequential. It's just kind of like all over the place, like Too Many Cooks, although I still think it's very good. This is just like, I respect that this is an ambitious, singularly made game, even if maybe it doesn't hit me, or, I mean, I can't say that because I haven't gotten that far myself, but secondhand, it doesn't seem like it would hit me that hard. But I'm glad it's like, I'm glad it exists. I wouldn't dare call it pretentious. Like, I wouldn't call it, I wouldn't even say it's up its own butt. I would just say, you know, I'm happy that games like this can exist, because what do we get, like one of these every 3 or 4 years or something?
Yeah.
I want to kind of unpack that a little bit more, because I actually felt the same way. I kind of did think some of those things you mentioned were a little up their own butts, and they were a little bit sort of like first-year philosophy student kind of things. The sentiments were really surface and kind of obvious, and a lot of people that aren't waiting for a larger context, they might judge them at face value. And I think what this game teaches you is, through this language, as you unpack all the rest of the areas of the island, you sort of learn a new way of looking at everything. It's sort of telling you that don't look at these and judge them for what they are, because you need to see the whole picture before you can see them. And I haven't even seen it, and I played it for 50 hours. So it's a test of your patience and endurance, as well as it is about learning. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I can understand why some people would. So I don't have any judgment for people that say this game is not for them. Personally, it's like my dream game, because I love the exploration element. I think it's absolutely beautiful. There's maybe nothing else I've seen that quite singularly captures an art style as well as The Witness does. Yeah. It goes better than most games that try to go for a naturalistic art style. It's just got its own idea, and it nails it. And you are free to take your time. If you get stuck in a puzzle, go to a different area. You find your own way through the island, and there's stuff that I might never see in it. It's massive. So, like, it's a project that took him years and years of his life, and I rushed through it in like a week and a half. And that's so weird to me, that I could have gone through that whole thing in that short amount of time, and just like, so much must be lost on me. So I'm looking forward to seeing it all in the bigger picture still.
For me, like, I just will flat out say I'm way too stupid for that kind of game. As looking at the puzzles, and I know, like, I would not be able to do it. My brain just cannot work in that way. And I'm impressed with the people who can do it, but I'd like to be good at that game, and I think I would enjoy it, but I just can't do it. I wouldn't be able to get past it.
It's hard. It's definitely a slower paced game. Like, for me, like, when I play it, it's kind of like when I want to isolate and shut myself off from everything else. It's kind of nice, actually. You know, when I first got in there and you're looking around, obviously it's very beautiful. It sounds beautiful too. Even like, I really like the sound of like footsteps and tires on gravel and stuff. So when you're walking around, it's just like, you know, it's that, and I don't have to worry about some zombies running out of a forest or killing me, and I can just kind of sit back, you know, take it in, look at a puzzle, try to...
Very immersive.
It really, for me, and again, this is not for everybody, but like, it calms me down. I just like, it kind of gets me in a different sort of thought process than a lot of games where it's just like very fast paced, and you're like, go, 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 and it's almost like little stressful, not like super bad stressful, but this is just like, I don't know. I think for some people, it can be good. But
I bet it would be great on like the Oculus Rift.
I absolutely hope to play it in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming
it's something weird to time for me. Also, I was playing it for like 10 hours at a time, and I didn't realize that much time had passed.
Very few games can do that nowadays. I can't lose time.
It's like low impact, right? Like, you can just sort of walk away at any point and be like, all right, I'm just not going to do that for now. So if you get too stressed out, like, it's only you that's to blame for that. But I tried to persevere when I got stuck most of the time.
Did you guys play? Chat's bringing it up a bunch, and I actually really liked it. Was the Antechamber?
Yeah,
people saying
one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah, and people saying it reminds them of Antechamber. I remember playing Antechamber, but the thing is, it wasn't like Antechamber wasn't just like one type of puzzle. It was like a bunch of different kinds of puzzles that were all perspective based and stuff. Would you equate it to like, is it like Antechamber in regards to what it's trying to do?
The scope of Antechamber and the breadth of the puzzles is much larger than The Witness, whereas The Witness really dials in on one concept and goes in a bunch of different directions in that concept.
Gotcha.
The Witness is less about challenging your perception of the whole world as much as it is your perception of those puzzles.
Gotcha.
Whereas Antechamber is all over the place. And I love both of them for both of those reasons. It's much more surreal as well, Antechamber.
Yeah,
And
I remember
think,
Antechamber being
more
like
cerebral.
really, really trippy to play. But I'll never touch The Witness. It looks like it's a great game that does what it does incredibly well. I can't. My brain just can't do it. So, well, that's that. We will. I've got no sweet next segue into the next topic. But we'll just tackle the next big game that kind of came out is Rise of the Tomb Raider. Next big game that came out on PC.
Yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider is really good.
There you go. Ryan's ready to talk about it.
A week to talk about Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Well, you were like, "What? Well, we're going to talk about ROTRR," and I was like, or ROTTR or whatever. I was like, "What are you?" I don't
You're
even
like,
know.
what's
Rise
that?
of the Triad.
I was like, "I don't even know what you're talking about."
Rise of the Triad temporal rendition.
I haven't
like,
played Rise of the Tomb Raider. I have a code for it. I got it. I just have not been able to put any time into it yet. I'm excited to play it though. Hit me, Ryan. How do you like it?
Rise of the Tomb Raider is a fantastic game. If you like linear action-adventure games like the Tomb Raider reboot from 2013, or another game I equated to a lot is Max Payne 3, then I think you will love Rise of the Tomb Raider. I think it might be my favorite game in that genre in a long time. If you don't like games like that, you will probably hate it. It is not really a sandbox game. It's not really an XCOM-y kind of mechanics-driven game where you can play it, for 200 hours or anything like that. But if you like that kind of like, thrill ride aspect where you can just kind of like sit down, do some light puzzling that makes you feel smarter than you probably are.
So not The Witness.
Right, yeah, exactly. Combat's relatively satisfying, and it's really good. It is my opinion. It's basically like that genre. Right now, Crystal Dynamics has made like their best Tomb Raider game. It's like everybody there at the height of their at the height of their talents. Like
I
if
got
you
that
don't,
impression as well, actually. Yeah.
it's basically like their kind of triumph, I guess. Like if you don't like, Kendrick Lamar or something like that, no matter how good To Pimp a Butterfly is, you're not gonna like To Pimp a Butterfly. If you don't like games that are Tomb Raider-esque, you're not gonna like this. But if you like it, it's basically
I love Uncharted.
a masterwork. Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's similar to Uncharted.
I couldn't say for sure because I haven't played Uncharted.
Is it like Uncharted? I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Nick?
I've played all the Uncharted games,
Me
and I
too.
found it to be quite a bit like the second Uncharted, actually.
Oh, that's my favorite one. No, I'm in. I'm sold.
Yeah.
It was back into that whole like sort of masochistic mindset, though. I mean, I only played 3 hours of it, but I wish they didn't have to just beat the shit out of Lara so much. But I guess that's just part and parcel with this series now.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do a little bit less violent.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
less than the other one, I agree. And it was happy for me to not have that moment of she's spastically dying on the spike as much, but it did happen.
I'm like 8 hours in, closing in on the end of the game. Yeah, I'm 8 hours in, closing in on the end, and I like. In terms of that, I've made fun of Tomb Raider for like 3 years for like it just being shit happens to Lara Croft over and over. Like, she like every time she jumps on something, like it breaks, and then she climbs to like the top of this rickety staircase and like a lightning bolt strikes a cargo plane that crashes into the tower.
It's a
and
Goldberg machine of suffering for her. Is what it is.
it really is. But like I've come to not necessarily respect it, but understand it in that if you do the main quest stuff, every main quest has a meaningful set piece, and the meaningful set piece usually involve her kind of getting injured and stuff. But she's going through shit basically every single time. So I like that there's. I guess it feels like there's consequences as opposed to just being like, hey, your main quest story here, like I was saying to you guys, is like, oh, go get 10 animal skins and then come back, and then I'll be like, oh, my village is over the hill, Every main quest mission feels significant because of those set pieces, and admittedly in those set pieces, she does spend a lot of time like breaking her own ankles and like almost drowning and stuff.
It's weird because Uncharted does the same thing where Drake goes through hell all the goddamn time. Something's always happening to him, but nobody yells at it about that. And I wonder if it's just because like Drake
spaced out
references it. He's just like he understands. He's like, this my life is crap. Like this.
It's a parade of shit for her. Like every single surface she touches breaks and falls apart. She'll run over this one single bridge and like everything around her will fall apart. Things she's not even touching or interacting with will try and kill her for no reason.
Would you say the same for Uncharted though? Like that happens to Drake too.
Occasionally he'll jump across a cliff face and nothing will happen.
But like,
just sort of
I guess maybe I haven't played the new one, but I guess maybe the difference is just like Drake takes it in like in a witty direction and makes a joke about every time something terrible happens
is
to him.
super dire for Lara, so maybe that's why it stands out more.
I'm wondering if that's the difference, because like I said, I think about all the Uncharted games, and he's just like crap. Like this is like he makes fun of the fact that everything terrible happens to him. Where I guess maybe
you're right, actually, it is a big part of it.
Yeah, and maybe just Laura's just like, my life. Oh, it's so sad.
She's not really like that.
You said I haven't played it. I'm just taking a wild stab.
She doesn't lament that much. She just kind of drives the story forward. She's a strong, independent woman.
She's
She's
not
not
no Drake.
like when she cracks her knees open. She's not like, oh, my knees. She's just like, oh, that sucked. Okay, let's keep going. You know?
All right.
I got the impression that you could break every bone in her body, and if she wanted something, she would still try and keep crawling along the ground to it. Which is why I want less shit to happen to her, because she wants what she wants so badly. Just give her a break.
She's more well written. I mean, the whole game in general, I think, is more well written than Tomb Raider 2013.
Okay.
And the platforming, like when the game is at its best, is when there's no enemies on the screen, and it's like, okay, here's like an artifact that you have to get to, and it's kind of like Mirror's Edgy. Like it's not like it's all a uniform like texture and color in the environment, so you've got to like divine your own path. Like everything has visual cues that are not really subtle about like the path that you're supposed to take. But when you can kind of chain those together visually, it feels really good. You're like, okay, I do like a sprinting jump off of this. I'm going to lose my grip, so press X, climb up, then use your grapple axe to like hit
Prince
this
of
thing
Persia
that's too far away.
2008.
Exactly. It's got some good fluidity to that,
like
and
that
that's when it's at its best. And like the puzzling elements are pretty good as well. I mean, I've only had like 2 or 3 mandatory kind of puzzle sections, but I was like, this is not hard enough that I would ever consider using a walkthrough, but not easy enough that you're just like, oh, just shoot this explosive barrel. So
what's the difference between the 2013 one and this one again that you would say is better?
Is mostly linear.
It's just more linear than 2013.
Purpose driven, or
I just think like everything about it is a step up. Like the 2013 game was good, but it was a little bit too torture porny in my opinion, and like I don't know, the mechanics just feel a lot stronger. It's 3 years later. It looks amazing.
It's
like it looks fantastic.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
and it ran
just
really well too for me anyway.
It reminds, it runs really well for me as well. It reminds me of like, I say this in the video that'll be going up, but like, it reminds me of kind of like the Avengers or the Avengers 2. Is like I can't imagine anybody being like, this is my favorite game of all time, but I can imagine that it has like really, really broad appeal, and like the people working on it are extremely talented, and the game is like very, very polished, like well made. It's pretty much just fun. Like it that's been my experience with it so far. Is it's like I'll pop in for like 2 or 3 hours a night and then be like, that's enough for now. But I'm definitely going to finish it. I'm closing in on the end. I do feel like it's a little long, but that's probably a good thing for a lot of people.
In the bit that I played, the only couple of things that bugged me, the main thing that bugged me, honestly, was there was, at the end of the first temple, there was this one relic sitting in a place that I couldn't quite figure out how to get to. And then at the very end of that set piece, you get forced into an exposition moment, and then you've got to escape. And I wasn't done looking for that relic, and then I had to just leave it behind, even though I didn't want to leave yet. Which, I mean, that's just the way they flow the game. I guess that makes sense. But, like, let me know we're about to start a thing so I can finish my exploration first, you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
And also, she's a really seasoned, like, climber, and yet there's so many surfaces she can't touch because they're not part of the usual path to get where you're going.
You're not allowed to explore. I was under the impression that this game was more open-ended or more open world-esque, but I guess that's not the case.
I think it's little hubs within.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple of times throughout the storyline, you will hit a place that is like a pseudo hub world, and then like the site, basically you'll be in an area and it'll be like, hey, there's an optional tomb nearby, explore if you want to find it. But if you don't want to find it, just go ahead to the next objective and like you're
what's
good to
the
go.
Incentive to explore? Is loot?
I mean,
there's coins which tie into a meta
Completionists.
system with cards that you can buy.
I think the
Okay, maybe I
reward
should
is
play it.
more, the reward is intrinsic. Like if you enjoy being a completionist in the game, you'll enjoy it. But you, like Mike was saying, but you also do, when you complete the optional tombs, you usually get like it's the equivalent of getting like an optional skill mastery. So like if you complete one tomb, then it'll be like, hey, now you can fire 2 arrows without having to draw your bow twice. Like you can fire them in quick succession. So, you know, stuff like that. It does make it better or easier on you, but you don't need it to be easier.
Sounds like a little bit like Assassin's Creed 2. Remember the like weird tombs, the optional tombs you could go into? Yeah, and there's like loot at the end of that stuff. So it sounds similar to that. I mean, I'm interested in playing it, but I just haven't had the time.
Kind of odd to me that since we had the review keys, they came with like DLC included, which were, I don't really know how to put this. They were special like unlocks that give you a deck of cards, and then the deck of cards unlocks skills or something.
I have no idea how that works. I opened
really
all my
want
packs.
the advantage, but it was already there, so.
I opened all my packs and I was like, I have no idea what the hell this stuff does. But then like when I got back into the game, it was like, hey, you've got like a new bow and arrow, and I was like, all right.
It just
like,
gave you a weapon for some reason.
If there's anything that bums me out about that game, it is that I feel like Crystal Dynamics, at its core, this is a guess, I can't speak for them, but they want to make like a really cinematic Tomb Raider experience. Yeah. But then there's people like from maybe from within, or maybe from like a marketing department at Square Enix or something, that are like, nah, like we need to compromise that mechanic a little bit. We need to put like currency that you can find in the game, which makes like you're looting ancient currency like relics, and then you trade them to a dude who gives you like upgraded weapons, and they try to like, they're like, well, he can't have cash because cash is traceable. Well, you don't have to pay him with these like Byzantine coins you looted from a temple
that are worth like incredible amounts of money. I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like,
Roman
okay,
golden coins. Yeah, just like
these are priceless. And he's like, yeah, okay, use a lockpick.
Yeah, I just gave you a ton of money.
And then like there's like the lootable stuff. I get like almost a Witcher kind of fatigue from tapping the right analog stick all the time, which gives you the objective vision. So now you can be now you can be like, oh, there's coins here, there's a map here, there's like shit here. Here's my objective. So there'll be like, I've got to rescue Jacob, and then
Jacob.
I don't know why she's Steve Irwin.
Almost.
I've got to rescue Jacob. And then she's like, okay, there's the objective right in front of me, but let's go a little bit to the right, crack this open, get a couple of screws, go over here, break this tree. I got some wood. Go over here.
I gotta level up my Greek first.
Yeah.
Let's read this pillar. That's
like
actually a thing. You level up your Greek.
You level up like a language?
Yeah, the more artifacts you find in a specific language.
That's so weird.
I don't know.
She's a Tomb Raider, man. You think she'd learn the language before she went?
No, she reads the posters on the walls,
and she just
like,
learns.
now I understand this, and then she
makes
goes
no
to another
sense.
place.
Yeah.
There are some elements that I feel are just kind of shoehorned in.
That's weird.
But I don't care. The game's super fun. It's just
it's interesting to see like Tomb Raider having progressed and turned into what it is, because it was like Tomb Raider Underworld was terrible or mediocre at best, and then Uncharted kind of came along and did Tomb Raider but better. Yeah. And so then Tomb Raider came back and like, well, we'll be like Uncharted, and now we're kind of Uncharted but our own brand of Uncharted. Yeah, it's weird.
It's basically like Indiana Jones game. Yeah. Like it's pretty much female Indiana Jones, which is really cool.
Which is exactly what Uncharted is. It's an Indiana Jones game.
For it too, right? Like it's not a very saturated thematically in games and stuff like that. I mean, we're seeing a lot of, kind of survival, space, sci-fi kind of like games and stuff like that.
Sign me up. Do I get to chop trees?
Yeah, man, come play The Forest with me.
No, I've played so much of The Forest. I'm so sick of that game.
They just updated, though.
The last Tomb Raider, I was really hoping was going to take survival seriously and look at this like a simulation, but it ended up being sort of half arcadey and just over-the-top violent. I was just really hoping they would go in that direction, but now that they've decided on it being Indiana Jones cinematic Uncharted world, I guess I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm. I much found what they like. Yeah, well, that's the thing is like as long as they commit to something, I think that gives them an advantage. Yeah. For me, I wish there weren't those mechanics that I feel are shoehorned in. But I know, like, if you're trying to justify a purchase that is going to be, 30 hours instead of 15 hours, then having the ability to, like, have all that shit in there to get platinum trophies and make that, like, a little extended makes sense. The optional tombs are fun, too. Like, I don't know if Nick got far enough in. And, Mike, how much have you played?
Literally zero. I really wanted to play. I'm thinking of just, like, hitting it hard this weekend and
it's a great stream game if you want to.
Well, that's actually kind of one of the things I was wondering if that's something people would because certain games, as you guys know, they're very streamable, some aren't, but if it's got as nice a flow as I'm hearing from you guys, like it's almost like I'm playing a movie or whatever, and people are watching.
Feels just like that.
So I think,
there's logical spots. It's not an episodic game, but there's like parts of the game that are like 45 minutes long. So you like chain them together and play as much as you want, basically. And it's very obvious when you stop playing. You're not like, oh, maybe if I stop playing now, there's a set piece like in 10 seconds. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's really good. I think a lot of people are going to sleep on it because it came out already. Like it's got this new oldness going on, or old newness, because it's been out for 3 months, but just came out on PC. And I do think that there's, I don't even want to call it a bias, but I think that it's got an uphill battle as a game that is expensive and perceived as short, and people sometimes have complaints about it being a lot of cutscenes. There's like no QTEs. There's almost no QTEs.
There's some. When you fall off things, you got to hit X at the right moment.
That happens regularly, but at the same time, there's no like scripted segments anymore that are like, this guy rushes at you, hit B, get out of the way, and then like mash Y. There is like Assassin's Creed style combo stuff where it'll give you like a button prompt over somebody and then you finish them. But
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, like I would really recommend it. I wouldn't hesitate. Like it's robust too. Like I've got 8 hours in it, and I'm probably at least 2 or 3 from the end, and I've basically just been doing the story and like an optional tomb here and there. So I think it's longer than the original for sure.
In the 3 hours I've played, I get the impression that this is probably going to be my favorite Tomb Raider that has existed. It's just stunning looking.
More
it's so pretty.
Than the original.
Sadly, yeah.
You don't like square boobies like the rest of us,
It's
Nick?
not about the square boobies. It's really about locking the dude in the meat locker at the beginning. Can you get to her manor ever? Does that ever open up?
I don't believe so.
That would have been the coolest.
That'll be in the third
callback.
game. That'll be in the third game.
The game kind of opens with a, I guess like a prelude, but I don't think you actually get to do like playable stuff in the manor.
All right. I'm for it. I recommend it. It's real good.
You don't need to have played the original or the
I'm
reboot either. I actually had to Wikipedia to be like, is this
necessary?
Is this a sequel or a prequel? Because I finished Tomb Raider 2013.
It's a reboot, right?
I remember it. Well, that's what I mean. Like, you don't have to play the reboot to understand Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
It just fits in kind of like as a serial, I guess.
I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it. Cool. Yeah. That's Rise of the Tomb Raider. It's already out now on Steam and on Xbox One, and we assume it'll be on PS4. I think they said holiday of this year. So
really? That's
it's like super far out. It's really far away.
Really sucks.
Yeah,
dude.
No, PS4 gets fucked.
It's gonna get slept on. I think that's so.
If you can get it on PC, just get it on PC. It feels new as new on PC right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to jumping on it. But from one Square Enix game to another, it's time to talk about Hitman, the new one. So it was announced a couple weeks ago, but we didn't have a podcast last week, that they are officially like chopping up Hitman into a bunch of episodes. I think initially the plan was like the prequel or whatever. The new game was going to be like one episode and then the full game was going to come out. Now Square Enix is like, no, the whole game is going to be in installments. And the number of installments is unknown. People are speculating that they're going to hold out until they see how the first or second one ends up selling. I guess maybe they just I'm just curious the thought process that Square Enix has. Like, did Absolution sell so poorly that this new Hitman cannot be a full $60 like one-time purchase experience? They really need to cut this thing up into multiple episodes, and this is also happening to Final Fantasy VII reboot, which is going to
be for development reasons, man.
Why assume that it being cut up episodically is a bad thing necessarily?
You really think? I'm not saying it's going to be a bad thing, but do you really think it needs to be? Like, it's Hitman, man.
To me, it's a bit concerning. I don't want to say it's bad. It could obviously.
It worries me.
Very good.
To
me, it's kind of say, well, if they're deciding how many episodes to have, it's like they're deciding, the story as it goes. It's almost like they're just kind of winging it a little bit.
Right. They could drop it if it doesn't sell well one episode.
Right.
Like we're just talking about Tomb Raider, and it was kind of very like generally linear, and it's like. They made the game that they wanted to make more or less. Whereas this, they're kind of like, well, we'll see if you guys like the first episode, then we'll make more and more. But it's like, I don't know.
I'm looking at sales numbers for Absolution, and 3 years ago, it had 3.6 million sold.
I don't think it's a fair thing to just assume that it's sold poorly and this is motivating the decision.
So
like The Walking Dead was episodic. That doesn't mean the show is not popular.
Yeah.
Also, didn't Square Enix go on record as saying they had like a really weird correlation of what they consider to be a success for a game, right? Like,
well,
Tomb
yeah,
Raider
they
sold
said
really
that
well,
the
and they're like, that
reboot,
failed.
the reboot of Tomb Raider sold like 3 million copies, and they're like, that did not do as we wanted it to. I was like, okay.
With the Walking Dead, I mean, it was episodic, and other games are. But does that mean, they didn't have the idea of what each episode was going to be at the the front of development? Like, I don't know if that was the case, or and they're just releasing it episodically because they needed time to work on it, and they kind of rather say, well, at least we'll give them one episode, they can play it, kind of thing. Whereas this, it sounds more like they're just like, all right, let's just kind of make up the story as we go. If people like it, then we'll keep doing it. I don't know. That's where I'm a little.
And didn't
concerned.
rumors come out that with the Deus Ex, the same thing was going to happen, but because of the backlash, like they just ended up cutting a ton of the game or whatever, and not finishing it, like the new one?
I don't feel comfortable saying yes or no without the actual news in front of me. But
I'll look.
like my thing with Hitman is that I think I think you can make Tomb Raider episodic. I understand the point you're trying to make. Like, they made the game that I said they made the game they wanted to make. I don't necessarily think that Tomb Raider would suffer from being an episodic game. And I think that Hitman is kind of modular in the same way where, I couldn't tell you what happened in Absolution, and partly that might be because the story sucked. But I could be like, oh, there's the Chinatown level, there's like the hotel level where the fire happens, there's like the subway level, there's the level in the cornfield with the nuns, there's the level where you get like the bunny suits. Like it's all about, for me at least, is the the levels where you can actually, or like the levels are like a sandbox that you can play around with, as opposed to like there being an overarching Hitman story. Like that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is being able to be like, well, on this level you can do some cool stuff where you like poison this dude's burrito and then he dies 10 minutes later or something.
I feel like the message that Mathis is trying to get across here, and where I could also potentially get on board, is the difference between buying singles on iTunes versus buying an album, right? I'd rather see the composition be placed throughout in the album, where you get to see the beginning, middle, and end, versus we can adapt after we get sales figures and demographic information, peer-reviewed, like focus groups. I just want to see a whole focused, full game sometime.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I guess, that's where I'm coming from, but it's like, I don't mind episodic games, but if everything they're going to do is going to become episodic, I'm worried that they're just going to try and... My worry, I guess, as a consumer, is they're just going to milk us for all we're worth. And if they don't sell enough, they're never going to finish the story.
And don't buy it. Like,
there's a good chance I won't, but like again...
but I love the series, and I don't want to see it turn into that.
Exactly.
It's not a real thing. Like, it's a piece of media. Like, if you are going to be cynical and say that this is like it's milking or like it's a cash grab, then you owe it to yourself and the other people who agree with you to not support it, even if you do like the series.
But if you're gonna chop it up in episodes, don't they have a duty to say we're gonna at least finish this? Like,
I don't know if they do. Honestly,
you don't think so?
Is there any duty like in the games industry? I think it comes down to what is actually working. Like, if episode 1 comes out and it's fucking horrible, I don't think that they have to be like, well, we're committed to doing like 5 more of these to finish the story.
Yeah,
I don't think that helps anybody.
So you'd rather have it just come out as a full vision, done from beginning to end, and if it tanks, it tanks. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
That's
versus the course correction, where you could say, well, this looked good, then it kind of went a little off, and then now we're just dropping the whole thing.
I'm not saying like one is better than the other. I'm just saying, we already have episodic. We have episodic games, and some of them work and some of them don't. But like, I can't be like, well, from what I've played of Hitman, like, it doesn't work as an episodic game. Like, we have to figure out. We have to at least give them a chance to come out with it. They're the ones who actually have the information of how it's developed. We see like one trailer 6 months ago, form an idea in our head of what the product is going to be, barely remember it, and then we get the news and we're like, it's episodic now, you blew it. Like, this might be the proper way to handle it. I think you have to at least let it come out before passing judgment on it.
It's not even that I'm passing judgment on it. I just worry. I mean, the idea I've formed in my head is based on Hitman Absolution. Like, I enjoyed Hitman Absolution. I know there are like the purists who hated Absolution or didn't like it that much. But if you're going from Absolution, which was a good finished product, to being like, well, we're going to take that idea now and we're going to chop it up and sell it to you in bits. I just don't understand. I guess I just don't understand the thought process as to why that's the direction they're going. And I just want to understand why they went from a full finished $60 experience to episodic, gameplay. I mean, it just Hitman. I don't know. Hitman in my mind does not fit the episodic model, and I probably won't touch it until it comes out as like all the episodes are out and I can buy the whole thing if it's good. But it's just weird. It's just weird that Hitman is what they're gonna break up. I can almost understand Final Fantasy VII a little bit, but I don't get it with Hitman at all.
I'm less on board for Final Fantasy VII than I would be for Hitman, honestly.
How come?
But because I feel like the story of an RPG kind of needs to be cemented in place.
Yeah. I get when Ryan put it that way of, in the perspective of, Hitman is very mission based, right? There's a very concrete like start and end, each hit, right? So, putting it in that perspective, it makes a little more sense in the whole episodic, and it could be beneficial because, the missions are very memorable. Like you think of the game, even if they release the whole game and there's like 12 missions, right? Like you think of each mission as its own discrete thing, like, oh, I love that mission with the ice cream truck or whatever kind of thing. So I think releasing it episodically could allow them more time to really focus on a single mission or whatever it ends up being at a time, and it could end up being like really beneficial, and they're making some awesome missions, and then they're not quite as rushed because maybe people are used to the idea, okay, well, they're gonna release this mission when it's done, rather than just releasing 10 half-assed missions all in one package kind of thing. So it could prove to be more beneficial for this type of game. I don't know. It's my, yeah.
Screw
We're all
your
speculating for the sake of conversation.
Yeah,
We don't
well,
know.
Exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
obviously, I don't know. I guess I'm more cynical than most when it comes to that kind of thing. I get stuff like Telltale games are episodic because that's just the only type of games they really make, and it's point and click adventures, and I like that idea of you could tell certain parts of the story in chapters like a book or a TV show because that's how they're done. I guess when you bring it up like that and say maybe Hitman chopping it up into missions and selling you those missions, as long as they're good and they're not gonna like overcharge you for like an hour's worth of content or whatever. I guess it's another thing. I'm curious how long each episode's gonna be. That concerns me too, because in Hitman Absolution, there was like you could finish a mission in like 45 minutes, or you could finish it in 10 minutes, depending on how you decided did you want to shoot him in the face, or did you want to take the elaborate, I'm gonna poison him, follow him, that other thing. So I'm curious how that's gonna be factored into it as well.
Well, it could also, if you go the episodic route, it could really focus on the density of content for one area. Right, so if the
Very
focus
replayable
is,
kind of thing.
you get one mission today, you might have a ton of different things to do in that one mission versus that it's more focused around the narrative, getting larger throughout the whole experience. Could be a positive.
Yeah, Ryan and I, we have a friend from high school. He's always been pretty into the Hitman games, and even playing the older stuff, very recently. He'll go through the missions several times. I mean, because that's always been their, one of the things about Hitman is like there's several ways to skin a cat. There's several ways to skin your hit, right? You kill them how you want, sneak around, put on different costumes and stuff like that, and just, seeing how it plays out. So, maybe you can, I guess, do the mission potentially in 10 minutes or something like that. But a lot of people that are going to be buying Hitman, I think, are, going into it with maybe the idea of replayability and doing the missions a few times, so it might multiply. So
could be leaderboards, could be objectives.
Yeah.
My thinking is just like this is a AAA episodic game, basically the likes of which we haven't seen before, and there are like some gotcha moments. I know there's a Half-Life episode, like Half-Life 2 episode 1, and then it adds.
It's not the same,
item.
and they never finished it. They never gave us episode 3.
I was waiting for episode 3.
That doesn't mean that like.
God damn it!
It's not like. Here's my perspective. Would you rather have episode 1 or nothing? And then, of course, the caveat is you say I'd rather have the full thing, but that's not like. It's not equivocable. Like if you say, okay, Hitman's not going to be episodic, that doesn't make it any more likely to come out and be a good game.
Yeah.
Is my perspective on the issue. But this is like Nick was saying, it's speculation, and like we don't know how much it's going to cost, how long each section is going to be. All we know is that to a certain extent, I trust. Is it IO? IO
Yes,
Interactive.
I think so.
To a certain extent, I trust them. I think that they've done. I thought they did a pretty good job with Absolution, which I know a lot of people disagree with. But
I like
thought
Absolution, yeah.
I thought it was at least not a cash grab. And this isn't a sequel that's coming out the next year. This is 4 years later. And I trust them enough to at least give them a shot. Like, I think they've earned at least a chance to fuck it up. And if they come out with it and it sucks, then that's it, you know? But if they come out with it and it works, then that's good. And if they're $20 episodes, each one is like a few hours long, that's one thing. If they come out with $20 episodes and each one is like 45 minutes long, that's not very good at all, probably. But I think we at least owe it to them to give them a chance. And I don't know. I wouldn't operate under the assumption that it's more of a cash grab to do an episodic game because, you know, instead of doing an episodic game, maybe what they do is they come out with a $60 Hitman game and a $30, you know, season pass DLC, and then like $15 weapon packs and stuff like that. So I think they should at least. But that's my approach with everything. Is like unless it's overtly evil, like just wait and see. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't.
Do you think there's a parallel to be drawn with Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes? Because
I think so. Yeah.
Well, I thought that was their initial approach they were taking, right? Wasn't they gonna do like a Ground Zeroes-esque thing and then release the full game?
Just to like whet your appetite while you're waiting for 5. Although I never played Ground Zeroes, I heard it was bad.
It was all right.
I heard it was bad, and I heard it was like amazing.
Oh,
I know there are some people that have like 20. Some people have like 25 hours in Ground Zeroes, and they're like, check out all these ways you can make this work. And then some people have like 2 hours in it, and they're like, hey, I beat it, and I don't really get
a testament to
$30.
the versatility and how differently people perceive media.
Yeah, no, I agree.
True. Well, I guess we'll see when it comes out. I mean, I don't think there's even a full set release date for it yet, but be interested to see what happens when it comes out. I guess I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
I'm glad it's Hitman. I don't have
my higher order problem is that almost every piece of news that isn't like a console price cut is everybody assumes the worst about in the video games industry. So I do have a chip on my shoulder about like what I consider to basically be news that could go either way, and people like automatically jump on the side of cynicism. I feel like unless Square Enix was like, hey, the new Hitman comes out tomorrow and it's got an 8-hour demo, and if you like it after that, pay what you want, then people are going to be like, oh, that's nice. But if they say anything else, then people are like, oh, Square Enix is a company trying to make money. Like, I am pro-consumer, but you also have to sort of like be open-minded. Like, just being cynical about everything is just like, I don't know. It's just.
I hear you. There's also a part of me though that feels like for the last 10 years we've been chasing the idea of can you just release a good game at a normal price point? Yeah. Everyone's got a fucking gimmick that goes in some direction or another. We just want a normal game released in full on a day.
I wish Evolve was that. Evolve was like the one that always sticks out of my mind of the game that they just chopped up into like.
Yeah, Evolve is a great game that is almost ruined by extraneous stuff. Like that deserves to be cynical about for sure. I mean, even Tomb Raider, I was like, well, Tomb Raider is a complete game that came out, but then I'm like, oh, it's Xbox One exclusive for a while, and then now it's PC, and it'll take 9 months to get on the.
That's what I mean. PS4. Just like cut all the shit, just release a game that we can play.
I think it's just, you know, people are concerned because of a general admiration for the Hitman games and stuff like that. They offer something a lot of other games don't really have that whole Hitman premise, and you know, when they go and switch to a different model of doing something episodically, you know, it's like, oh, you know, it's cause for concern. But I think the end result is people just really want like a good game, good missions and stuff like that. So if that's what it turns out to be, great. So well, yeah.
I hope for the best. I really do. Yeah. I really hope for the best. And if it's good, I'll still probably wait for the whole bundled package to come out. But I do hope it's going to be great. That'll basically cover it for all like the big game announcements. We got a couple of small things to talk about. We can go right to City Skylines Snowfall expansion that's announced. That I know Malf has a few things he wants to talk about that. Oh, so I mean, I feel like recently we just talked about like Nightlife and stuff, which was an expansion that just came out for it, and now Snowfall's coming out. And Malf, why don't you just go ahead and take it away?
Ruined.
Yeah. Well, this is, I mean, this is something that's near and dear to my heart because I generally enjoy city simulations, and I've been playing City Skylines since it came out. It's a bit bothersome to me and to a lot of other people. Like if you're on the subreddit for City Skylines, you'll usually see comments and stuff about.
I
people,
hear that's how Reddit works.
the people, they make comments and they talk about stuff. But
It's a great place for positive feedback.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially when After Dark first came out too, they were kind of like, oh, like more content, that's cool and stuff. But what about all these issues we've been talking about for the past few months since you released the first, the core game, right? There's a lot of fundamental components of the game that people aren't necessarily happy about. Traffic AI, for instance, people are like, it just doesn't quite make sense, and you're making your city based around trying to minimize congestion, but you're doing it in ways that don't really mimic how it would be done in the real world. So you're not making actual cities that are simulating real world cities kind of thing. And instead they've been putting focus into more content than fixing this fundamental stuff. And, then you've got people making mods, some really good mods, and it's like awesome that they're there. But again, people are really bitter about that. They're like, why are you relying on people making these free mods and spending their time to fix your broken core game? So that's kind of like, it settled a little bit. And now that they're coming out with Snowfall, it's like, oh shit, like here's more content and you're still not fixing some of these things. And just to highlight for people that want to know what is happening in Snowfall, basically they're adding snow, so there's going to be winter maps, but the thing is, it's not going to affect the other maps that you have. They won't get snow. You have to play this new map that always has snow. There's no like seasons or anything like that. Which is,
it's really weird.
We can get into that. Just the other couple things they're adding, they're doing streetcars, something people have been asking about for a while, which is fine. It's nice.
But only in Snowfall?
No, streetcars can be for any city as far as I know.
Okay, but you have to buy Snowfall to get it?
Well, the thing was, it was Snowfall. You have to buy it to get, and it's $13 for Snowfall as well. Whether that's worth it to some people, I don't know. World warmth is another thing. So cold weather will drive up demand for electricity, and you can use a new water-based heating system and stuff like that. But again, that's something that will only be on the winter maps.
And you said the winter map doesn't change seasons.
No,
so it's just like a harder difficulty when it comes to like power necessity.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking, if there's the whole world warmth thingy, then maybe there'll be an added metric in the game where it's like, all right, this is the temperature today or something. Maybe it's randomly done. I don't really know how they're going to handle that. And then as well, they're adding like a snowplow depot, so you can put that in your winter thingy. So you have to worry about the logistics of that. And of course, they have new chirps, because we all love the chirps.
Oh, the little Twitter thing.
Oh,
yes.
So
that's weird. That's like a weird addition to make it like one map or a specific type of map, and not like just open up like seasons in general.
That's
on
what
all
we
the
all,
maps.
I imagine, would want, right? You just want a normal year to experience your city, and you want day and night, and then the 4 seasons.
At the same time, isn't this like trademark paradox where the game came out a year ago, and like every 3 to 6 months there will be like a paid DLC with a lot of like free features that come in a patch alongside of it. Like reading at least the PSA or the press release makes me feel like this is like Crusader Kings 2 DLC, where for people on the outside, you're like, what do I care? They added like, Gavelkind succession to like this historically or this ahistorical nation or something like that. But then the free stuff usually is really nice as well. And I kind of see it as like a way for them to indirectly fund their continuing support of the game, which is not to say that like everybody should buy Snowfall, but like the people who are really into it and can't live without it basically in a way finance the continued support of the game for everybody else.
Well, they talked about it at ParadoxCon when I was there, when before the game was out, that the way they were going to approach it with expansions was the same way they do EU4 CK2 stuff, which is frequent mini expansions with free content attached for all players, which is fine. I think that's a good way to do things. I like that kind of like angle a lot. The problem, I guess, is where Mike is talking about, too, outside of the fact that it's not really seasons, it's one map, and it's weird, is that they haven't addressed problems that have been in the game since the beginning.
Yeah, and I think, they've talked about it a lot where Certain things are a limitation of the engine, right?
Unity.
Some people complained about assets, right? Like you can. The biggest thing for people at first for City Skylines is like, oh, you can make these huge cities and stuff like that. Unlike Sim City, where you had this small little box and it just didn't make very much sense. But there is still a limit to the amount of assets. So your city can only reasonably get up to a certain size and population before it's either just gonna be like, no, you've literally hit the asset limit, or you straight up your computer's gonna blow up because it's simulating so much stuff going on. So that was like an issue, and a lot of the other stuff that they've run into. But I think it's just so hard coded into the engine that even if they wanted to, I'm sure they want to fix like some of the AI and different things like that. But even if they wanted to, it wouldn't be reasonable. They'd have to go so deep into the code. So I'm almost thinking and hoping that they're taking in a lot of the feedback in terms of the way the game is set up. And if we get a City Skyline 2, it's going to address a lot of these core features and stuff like that. I think that's, really the only way they can handle it. But again, some of the stuff in this DLC here, it's not ideal, I guess, with the way that the snow works. I don't see how that's something they couldn't just do seasons. They've got a day-night cycle. Why not just do?
Yeah, that's I think the thing I'm most hung up on is like, why just do seasons, man?
Yeah, this makes me more conscious of the fact that it's like more fragmented than it needs to be, and now I just want to completely not play it and wait for the second one that does it all properly, and then I can get in on that.
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's a half measure, is what it seems like. It's like you're gonna add snow, but it's just like one map is always gonna be snowy. That's like when you work on like a project, you're like writing an essay or something, and you're like, well, I want to change it, but if I change this, I have to rewrite the whole essay. Yeah. So you're just like, I'll just put like a paragraph in here that'll like do it half well.
It addresses it, whatever.
I don't think people get off on the idea of like, I have a city that's always winter. I would rather experience what we want to be the naturalistic life we exist in. So that doesn't really fit that.
Well, they are as well adding on the non-winter maps. They're going to add in rain and fog. Okay. Other than that being a visual thing, I don't think there's any
no gameplay effects.
There's not like going to be plows or different things. I'm not sure that is going to affect cars and stuff like that. Having car accidents. It's not that there are car accidents and stuff now, but that's something that's would be interesting to see in the winter map, at least, with the icy, snowy conditions, if there's like, crashes and stuff, just to further immerse the whole simulation thingy and not just be kind of a cosmetic thing. Cause like, I don't know, like, it'll be cool to watch snowplows go around, but other than just like plunking in a couple depots and making sure they have coverage, there's not really too much more to the gameplay than that. So
it's like placing down like a police station and making sure they have coverage.
Yeah,
exactly. They need it.
Yeah, so I'm glad that they are adding more content to it generally, and it gives people a little more to be creative with and stuff like that. People spend a lot of time with these cities, so it's nice that they can maybe customize them a little more. I'm pretty excited for the streetcars. Like that'll be a nice cute little touch, but we'll see. I don't know what they have on the horizon after this, but there's a lot of stuff. Like I've got a laundry list somewhere of things I would love to see them add, just in terms of content. But
I'd love to see I would like to see a City Skylines too. I liked the vanilla release well enough, and I think it did super well for them. So I'd love to see them take it and really kind of expand on that idea quite a bit.
Yeah, I feel like we're in this weird era for games, at the risk of coming across as anti-consumer as well, where if you come out with a game like City Skylines, sorry, that's like where you're at for the next 4 years. It's like you're contractually prohibited. The contract between you and consumers is that you will support that game until people are sick of it, and then you can make City Skylines too.
I feel like that wouldn't be a thing we would be worrying about if they didn't announce that they were going to be supporting it in a Paradox-like fashion before the game even came out.
Well, I guess like now you can't be worried that they won't support it.
Right.
I just, in a way, I'm sort of like, well, if you want City Skylines too, like, you're gonna be waiting a while.
Yeah.
And it's not anybody's fault, you know. I mean, most people who own City Skylines would probably rather that they just continue to support it if they're still playing it. But if they want to make like wide sweeping changes, which it sounds like if they wanted to fix the traffic, they would have to. I mean, I don't know if that's true from a development standpoint, but I do remember reading like the AMA and the CEO was like, we basically can't change the traffic. So
yeah,
Right.
and other things too. I mean, like asset size, for instance, right? You know, the buildings are all on a 4x4 kind of plot. I recently, because in one of my episodes, I was building like a golf course. Some guy made like he modeled it after the Banff whatever golf course.
Yeah.
And you know, they're big, right? They're huge. So how do you model that accurately in the game? And some guy made a mod. It's basically stitches together assets. So you could have, you know, these buildings and certain things that are bigger than the standard 4x4 asset. So I mean, you know, it's good. I'm glad they did it, but again, it's a sore point for a lot of people. It's like, oh, great, we got to rely on another mod to fix this. And then every time they update the game, it's like, all right, now you need to wait sometimes a couple weeks before the mod is again compatible with it, or it might just freaking break your save because you've got all these mods. So it's a bit of work playing the game sometimes. I mean, once you really get into it and you've got all these mods and stuff like that. So, but I think again, you know, they have really done a pretty decent job in terms of, at the very least, listening to the community. So people are really passionate about it, and they're taking it all in. But I mean, like Ryan said, there's just certain things that they can't fix right now. I think it will require, you know, City Skylines to really address.
Well, it can't probably meaning could, but it's prohibitive, I guess.
Yeah.
Like probably nothing's impossible. You could turn the traffic all into, you know, like human centipedes that go around the city or something like that. But
I'd like to see that mod.
There you go, dude. But the modding conversation is so funny because I'm so excited for like Afterbirth Plus, even though I'm averse to using mods most of the time just because I'm lazy. Like it'll be like 36 hours and there'll be like mod that reverts shit that is broken to its previously fixed state.
Right.
Like, oh, hey, that's sweet. Like we wouldn't have waited like 8 months for Friends till the end to come back into the game as a pill, even though these are like relatively minor things. Yeah, me too. Or like, you know, I guess
like narrow rooms that spawn devils
exactly
beyond
like
where you can reach.
So it's a relatively good game, but
it is.
Yeah, like stuff like that will be fixed.
More and more devs are opening up themselves to more modding anyway. I mean, XCOM 2 launched with 3 mods from the Long War creators.
Yeah,
like it was packed. Like it was like, oh, we got 3 mods for you right off the bat. So I mean, you shouldn't have to rely on modders to fix the game. The game should just be fixed by the developers. But I guess you kind of can take what you can get. It just sucks.
They work together. I don't see a problem in it.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And I mean, Colossal Order might have like 30 people. I don't
know.
No,
they were okay. Maybe now, but at like launch there was 10. They had 10 people.
Okay, so yeah, maybe they expanded, maybe they didn't. But
yeah,
like at that size, you're never going to be able to compete with at least the sheer frequency of of modders or like quantity of modders out there. But yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration. If you want City Skylines to be a platform for you to play a city builder, then the traffic is something that probably needs to be fixed. But
Maya, chill out.
If you're playing it as like a game, like for me, I would play a City Skylines 2. Nothing that they could do would probably bring me back to City Skylines. I put my 40 hours into it. I had a good time, and I'm basically like that's.
I mean, if you want a city builder, like this is kind of your only option. Like a good city builder. There's a couple others out there, but they're like trash. This is like your only good city builder. From a relatively small team, I'm excited to see what the future holds, I guess. So,
and that's where the entitlement comes from so often. I think it's just in the people who love it so much. They just want the most viable option to be embraced to the fullest extent.
Yeah. Well, that's City Skylines Snowfall. Will be out soon, and if you want bugs fixed, I guess you download mods.
It's in 2 weeks, apparently.
Yeah, it's short. Soon. The only two other topics that we have down are relatively small. One, I don't think anybody but me is going to give a shit about. Xenonauts 2 was announced, which I'm very excited for. If you didn't know, Xenonauts 1 is kind of a throwback to old school XCOM. It's incredibly hard. The game whooped me over and over and over again. And with Xenonauts 2, I expect the same, but it'll be like a 3D engine and new units, new alien types, and it'll just be better all around. Malf, I saw you nodding your head. Did you play Xenonauts at all?
No, but I just, the whole XCOM thingy.
Old school XCOM, yep.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody here but me has played Xenonauts.
I played like 2 hours, but
not your
like XCOM Enemy Unknown kind of like made that formula more accessible. And
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Xenonauts hewed more to being faithful to the original series.
Yeah. So
from what I've heard of the original series, so
yeah, I mean, like the reboot came with like 2 actions, like that's all you get. Whereas Xenonauts adhered to like time units.
Yeah,
and each unit having time units, and each action taking a certain number of time units. It's much more difficult. I was terrible, but I enjoyed it. And then finally, CCP, the creators of EVE, are closing down Dust 514, which is their PS3 exclusive first-person shooter that ties directly into the EVE universe, but are continuing to work on Project Legion, but not Legion, as people are calling it. Basically,
What?
the idea of the idea of Dust 514, for people who don't know, it's a first-person shooter. It was a PS3 exclusive. Basically, you played ground troops on planets throughout EVE, and you could be funded by corporations, which are EVE's guilds, to try and fight for planets and, get their resources and help, like, the EVE Online game. There were some cool ideas there, but it wasn't, like, great. There was a lot of problems with it. There was, like, really weird microtransactions. So as far as I've read, Legion but not Legion is basically, it's Dust 514 again, but like on Unreal 4 and for the PC, and they're taking what they've learned, the best bits of Dust 514, and implementing it into this new game that we'll be seeing launch whenever they say it's ready. So it's kind of like
3 levels away from anything I care about.
I know, but
Sorry.
for me, I get excited about that kind of thing because I really want to like EVE. I just don't have the time. Nobody else here gives a shit, like I said, right? No.
I actually did not realize that Dust 514 had not been shut down earlier.
Yeah,
it was one of those games
on.
where, like, when it got announced, conceptually, everyone was like, "This is genius." And then I didn't hear about it for like 4 years, and then looked it up and was like, "Oh, that came out," and like nobody plays it. Like it's out. I was waiting for it, but it's been here forever.
Yeah, I remember signing up for the beta or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, here you go." But then I just, I didn't ever.
Such
play
cool ideas. I loved the ideas of like this in-game guild could fund you money to buy you better like guns and stuff for you to fight on a planet and stuff, but it just wasn't what people wanted. Oh well, that's fine. And that's gonna be it for main top. Yeah, well, I don't want to talk about No Man's Sky.
Okay, let's not talk about No Man's Sky.
That's gonna be it.
No Man's Sky. We don't have to talk about until they announce a release date.
Right, exactly.
Then we can have some.
And then we can worry about it. But that's it for the main podcast topics today. So I guess we're going to. It doesn't sound right when I say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Going to everybody's favorite segment, Ask Roundtable. Today's
obsessed like Bear died.
I know. Well, without Bear's guttural voice, it's just not there. But our question of the day comes from Max. Max says, "Hello everyone, big fan of your content and devoted listener." His question is, what do you guys think is the best dorm console? Keeping in mind durability, number of games, price.
Console.
Yeah,
Probably like
dorm console, like college dorm console. What would you consider the best? I never stayed in a dorm, so I don't really have an opinion.
I went to college. I didn't stay in a dorm either, but I have an idea about what they might be interested in.
So yeah, he says durability, number of games, price, number of notably good or influential single-player games, cost on a student budget.
No, that is not a dorm.
Yeah, you got to look at the
That's what he
multiplayer.
said, man.
That's the key.
LAN parties in the quad, man.
But Brian, we'll start with you. What would you think is the best dorm console right now?
You want to be the most popular dorm room in the dorm?
Get a gaming PC?
Get yourself a Wii U for sure. You're gonna have casual, like 17, 18, 19-year-olds coming over. Everybody knows how to play Mario Kart. Sorry,
Mario Kart Part 7.
You got Smash Bros. You got the Mario games. Like for sure, I think that if you're trying to get like broad appeal and leverage it for like some social
you
clout,
want broad appeal if you're in college.
Yeah, it's
the
very
Wii
true.
U is gonna take you there.
And
People are gonna be coming over to your room to play Mario Kart all the time. I guarantee it.
There's some really good single player games on the Wii U too. Bayonetta 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You've got Xeno something, the new RPG.
It's a good one.
Xeno. I want to say Xeno Gears, but I know it's not Xeno Gears.
You can play Rock Band on the Wii as well, right?
Nah, not on the Wii U, no.
Or the Wii U.
Correct.
No,
Yeah.
that's a. I don't know. In terms of durability, though, you got to think of, cartridge. If you go back to the N64, if you can still find, well, you can find them. I've got one.
N64.
Because the cartridges, right? People are jumping around. They're all high on their fruit punch and whatnot. And,
Everybody's high on fruit punch.
and the CDs can get scratched up or whatever. So if you go back a little older to cartridge-based stuff, you've got your durability.
You could
covered
buy
Yeah.
your warranty for $3 for that scratch
That's
CD.
exactly true. But if you're going to college and you're 18 right now, you didn't grow up on the N64. Like, we were able to mine the N64 for nostalgia when we brought it to our dorm. Everyone was like, "Oh, Smash 64, Mario Kart 64." I remember all these levels in my head. I think kids these days, if you were born in like 1996, you'd want to bring like a GameCube, or a PS2 or something, original Xbox.
True.
You would be like, "Oh my God, the silent cartographer! I used to do warthog jumping on this."
I would agree with you. I think Wii U is probably your best bet. I think there's a lot of good party games, and there's some good single-player options as well. I would vote Wii U. What about you, Nick? You
I
sticking
would
with it?
say the Xbox 360
Get
is your
out.
best bet.
Yeah, I mean, 360. is a good
Well,
pick.
okay, so there's a lot of reasons why it's good. The one reason it's probably bad is not the adaptability, the breaking thing. It's gonna break a lot because
Yeah,
they do. But
true.
they're dirt cheap now, and everyone's got games for it. So if you're around, probably everyone in the dorm has something they could put in there. It's reasonably easy to find controllers. There's plenty of 4-player games. The online still works for the most part. It's not super expensive. You get some Halo in, you get your gears in, you can have your bros down. It's going to be a good time.
Fusion Frenzy.
Not so much, but there's a lot of other
tried.
options out
You
there.
tried.
I mean, I've got like probably 70-something games for the thing. There's plenty out there.
Well, I liked the first Fusion Frenzy, but not the second one.
They're okay.
So
I
that's
don't-
my objectively correct answer.
There's a lot of people in chat though saying they're under 20 years old and they were raised still on N64
I'd
and
say
NES.
broad
even.
appeal,
Yeah.
man. That's like the same thing where, like, when we would be like 15, people would be like, "Well, you're a little too young for the ColecoVision." I'd be like, "Actually, my friend had a ColecoVision and I played it 4 times, so I'm very familiar with the phone controller." Like, you may have grown up with it, admittedly, but I think the cultural touchstone for people that are of that age is probably the consoles that came out when they were 6 or 7, as opposed to the consoles that came out when they were -2.
-2.
If you were
good
born in
option.
1998, that makes you 18 this year. N64 came out in 1996. That's all I'm saying.
I won't say no.
I grew
Who's
up
left?
with a Super Nintendo, but the console that I spent the most time with was definitely the generation that came right after, like the original Xbox and PS2 for sure.
Well,
Just
there's your answer, I guess.
follow your heart.
Follow your heart. Follow your heart.
Get a Wii U. If you want to make friends, get a Wii U. If you want to meet more turbo dorks like yourself, get a different console. And maybe you do. That's not a bad thing.
If you want to be a member of a very incredibly niche club, get an Xbox One.
Get an Xbox One and
Nobody's gonna
Legion,
bother with an
not
Xbox One. Who's gonna play that?
That's what I'm saying. You'll have like 2 friends, and that's it. Thank you very much for the question, Max. I appreciate it. And now it's time for everybody's favorite section after everybody's favorite section. That still does not sound right. That's fine, though. It's going to be Nick's Weird Games. Every week, Nick goes and picks a weird game. We guess it. Ryan sings a terrible song. And that is the
I
extent
might not
of
be
it.
singing a terrible song anymore. I'm not sure
I
where
don't
we're
know.
at.
I don't know. Well, I mean, Malf, let's let you either you can sing a song, Malf, of your choosing, or you could tell Ryan to sing a song of your choosing.
Oh,
You have all the power.
Mm.
But it has to be, in the theme of Nick's Weird Games.
What do you mean in the theme of his?
You gotta
his
make up
weird-
words. You gotta make up words that go along with Nick's Weird Games. Ryan, you might have to give him an example.
Yeah, give me an example.
What, do I not just do the whole fucking
Yeah, you
show
should. So
by
give him
myself?
Excuse you, sir. Nick, go get a game.
Want me
Malf,
to
tell
get a
Nick.
game?
Malf, tell Ryan to sing a song.
Ryan, sing a song.
No, you gotta give him a
All
song.
right, I'll go get a game. Then.
Like a real song?
Yes,
Or
a
like-
real song. A real song.
Okay, how about what's that Ricky Martin? Living the Vida Loca.
All right.
Okay.
There we go.
Boot up a PlayStation 1 with a shitty Nick's Weird Game. It was published in Korea, and it is pretty lame. He never picks something mainstream. He only picks the crap. You've never heard of it, and if you see it, it's a trap. It'll make you take a nap. Come on. It's from 2001. It's Nick's Weird Games on Roundtable. It's not very fun. It's Nick's Weird Games on Roundtable.
You did a pretty fucking incredible job with that.
It will weird
Right, he's
you
still
out.
going.
And it skins the
Oh,
color
you did live in
of
Lanita
mocha.
Loca. That's pretty good.
All right, so Mal, if you've never played this game with us before, the idea is hide chat. Nick is going to give us details, like little snippets about the game that he's picked out from like the back of the box and all that stuff, publisher.
Oh, yeah.
And
we gotta minimize chat.
we have to, with the information given, we have to try and guess what the game is.
Easy.
All right.
It's a pretty easy game. Usually, well, lately actually, they've been getting them more often than not. Also, what is up with freaking casters on chairs? They always grab any wires near them and pull them underneath every single time.
That's very true.
Really
very,
annoying.
Very true.
Anyway,
I'm a caster.
got another
chair.
Nick's Weird Games for you. So
All right.
today we're doing a PS2 game.
Of course.
I know, it's been a
Surprise!
trend, hasn't it? Also, and this is less relevant than usual, but it is published by Atlas. However, it's not an RPG. It's a 2D fighting game.
An Atlas 2D fighting game.
Yeah. And it is Japanese style,
Mm-hmm.
anime sort of
Surprise.
influence. I mean, it's sort of, self-implied by the publisher. Developed by Examu Incorporated, formerly Yuki Enterprise.
Oh, this
No, shut up.
makes it very.
I've got no leads right now.
Okay, no leads at all.
Nothing.
I mean, like, what are the 2D fighting games I like?
What year?
think
What
of-
year?
The year is 2006 is when it first came out on the PS2.
Come on, Ryan. You know fighting games.
There's a
2D
big
Japanese
detail to
fighting
this I could
games.
drop when you're ready for it that would probably give it away if you're going to get it at all.
Okay, like the only like Soul Calibur's Tekken, like, that's it. That's all I know.
I got nothing.
Chat
yeah.
has it already.
That's not
Don't-
surprising. All right, continue. I've got nothing.
Yeah.
All right. It's all girls.
Oh, Dead or Alive?
This guy's
that's
in
the
Dead or
dream
Alive.
Is it Rumble Roses?
Wait,
Nope.
Dead or Alive? Oh,
But
Yeah,
your
yeah.
hands
Rumble
in the
Roses
right
is not
place.
2D.
I'm thinking
though.
of Extreme Beach Volleyball. I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's okay. I followed your train of thought there.
The only like 2D fighting game with all girls I know was released recently.
Skullgirls.
Yeah, Skullgirls. It's all one I could think of.
Nah, this is an older one, man.
I'm exempting myself in opening chat.
Okay.
It has
Oh, yeah, never
121,
would have gotten that. Holy shit.
121 fighter combinations. You
I got
select
nothing.
from 11 maidens and 11 cards to create a fighter that suits your playstyle.
You got me, Nick. I don't know. Let's see what chat's telling me.
We
Fox-
bowed out
Fox
then?
has no chance. I'll just tell you that straight up.
No, because
Oh,
I
God,
suck at
is that
fighter
what it
games.
is?
So like,
Rated T for teen, partial nudity, sexual themes, and violence.
His next guess is Street Fighter 2 Turbo
The
Edition.
freaking top line on the back of the box. Humanity's last hope is one big cat fight.
Oh, come on
No,
now.
I got nothing. No, I like, if this is if chat's got it, like I never would have guessed that.
Yeah.
I'm
You
Here's our
tapping
game.
out? Nick
Today's
got it.
Arcana Heart.
I have never seen that game in my life.
Yep, that's good stuff right
Series
there.
is still going to this day. I believe they just released number 3 on Steam
Jesus.
fairly recently.
I've
It's not bad
never,
either.
I've never seen that game in my life.
Arcana Heart
Arcana Heart.
3 Love Max.
Love Max.
Oh, it's got a 9 out of 10 on Steam.
Yeah, it's a pretty good game.
It's incredible.
That seems like the kind of game where the people who play it would give it a 9.5 out of 10. Which I don't mean
Right.
impolitely. I mean, it's just, it seems
They've
like
got
the
their
kind of game where-
dedicated fan base.
Yes. If you are into it, you're into it. Hey,
Makes
is this
sense.
Kate? Are you here? Have you ever heard of Arcana Heart? Yeah. There you go. Kate got it.
Kate's got a point.
I
There you
think
go.
Blue W Monkey was our winner in chat today. So
Good job,
congrats
Blue
on-
W
That was
Monkey.
Nick's weird game today.
Oh my god.
Arcana Heart, not 3 Love Max.
Kate might be very
with 5
surprised at the
exclamation
amount
points.
of games that I have on my shelf that she would recognize that you wouldn't.
CD?
Yeah, he is a PlayStation 2 original.
That might be expensive.
You
should
think so?
tell Nick to see it on eBay. He might make money off of it.
There you go.
There you go. Sell it, Nick.
I'll
You
look
heard
it
me,
up.
girl.
I'm probably not going to sell it though. but I'll look it
Arcana
up.
Heart.
I also love how so there's a sentence at the end of the Steam description. The girls are appearing on Steam for the first time in open square brackets Arcana Heart 3 Love Max 6 exclamation points close bracket, 2 more exclamation points. Like they had to put the title of the game in brackets because there's so many exclamation points, and they didn't want it to be confused with the exclamation points that indicate their level of enthusiasm.
That's funny.
This doesn't look like it's going for much. I see a one bid on here is for 42, and there's a few that are like 19, so it's probably
The Love Max is all capitalized? That's hilarious.
I'd
well,
rather just collect
good job, Nick. You've got a point.
Yay, I win this week.
Good job. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's Roundtable Podcast Live, run by yours truly. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad of a shit show. We
did pretty well, man.
We did all right. There's a few things I need to nail down, but we did all right. Before we go, I want to thank our Patreon subscribers. Just kidding. I can't get into Bear's Patreon, so thank you, Patreon subscribers. If you're new, you can go support us over at patreon.com/roundtable. You can check us out on iTunes, Twitch, all of our Twitter. There's a subreddit you can talk to us at. Google Play soon, maybe. We'll post it on our channels. Basically, you can find Roundtable almost everywhere, and it was all right. You know, we did a pretty good job. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back next week, February 12th, same bad time, same bad channel. Maybe Malf will be here again if he is bored and has nothing to do.
I'll be available.
I appreciate that. Thanks guys so much, and we'll see you later.
See you next time.
Bye.